Ray. My literacy journey is a children's storybook, simple yet colourful. I chose this metaphor because my literacy journey has been simple at some points, but difficult at others. Literacy allows me to see things simply, but in an interesting way, and allows me to get lost in a different world and time. Early years. When I was little, my parents read simple storybooks to me, usually picture books. These were books such as Golden Circle books, Winnie the Pooh, Aussie Bite books, and Harry McClary books. These books were my favourite books. I get a nostalgic feeling as these books and reading are associated with my childhood and my first experiences of reading. My grandma also read Christopher Robin and A.A. Milne poems and stories to me. I vividly remember having a little bookshelf with simple picture books on it at our house. Phonings of English language were developed at this time through listening to parents and my grandma read to me. In kindergarten, my imagination developed and I learned about social literacy, having manners, and interacting with different people. I was an introvert, a quiet and shy child. At kindergarten, I was taught about simple concepts such as play, ABCs, counting, art, and interacting with others. I also learnt simple concepts from TV shows such as Play School, The Wiggles, and Winnie the Pooh. Primary. In primary school, the focus was more on morphology, syntax, pragmatics, and semantics. During this time, I developed a love for reading. I began to read chapter books and books that were more complex to my parents and by myself. My teachers and parents provided a nourishing and supportive environment for me to flourish and learn. My mum is a teacher, so she encouraged reading and language development. I was reading constantly and was exposed to lots of educational films and TV shows. I also had to contribute to class activities and discussions and learn about turn taking. I learned the basics of Italian as a second language. This included numbers, greetings, songs, stories, and body parts. Secondary. In secondary school and at work, I learned about social literacy and conventions as well as pragmatics and semantics. I also learned about the social use of literacy, meaning I learnt what language is socially acceptable and what isn't. I studied English and English language subjects, which gave me a more in-depth understanding about literacy and English as a language. I read complex books for English, which included different genres such as Gothic literature books. I also learnt about poetry and history of English, old language, and the evolution of language. In media, I analysed conventions and literacy of films and different media such as magazines. I also learnt about informal dialects, for example texting and using abbreviations such as LOL, use of emojis and slang. Throughout secondary school, my English skills developed and became one of my strengths. In Year 12, I got B's and B pluses. At secondary school, I also learnt a few languages, French in Year 7 and Indonesian from Year 7 to 10. I learnt about numbers, greetings, songs, foods, transport, etc. In French, we performed a play about the three little pigs, Petit Cochon, which I really enjoyed. Learning the basics of these languages helped to develop my literacy and language skills further. Learning these skills can also be beneficial for me in the future if I travel to these places or I come into contact with these languages. My friends at school all enjoyed reading and watching films, so we always talked about books and films that we had seen and read, and we exchanged novels that we owned and bought each other novels and films as presents. Getting Getting a job in Year 9 helped me to develop important communication and social skills in having to be confident in interacting with customers, my co-workers and managers. I had to learn different terminology and remember all the different procedures and types of bread, which broadened my vocabulary, language and literacy skills. Through being put in this social situation, I was forced to communicate and build bonds with people, which built my confidence and literacy skills. Tertiary, current needs and challenges. I received an adequate result of level 4 for the initial diagnostic test, although there's still room for improvement. My strengths identified by BKSB include verb tenses, presenting information persuasively, suitable responses and audience needs, detecting point of view, detecting fact and opinion, how meaning is conveyed, commas, inverted commas and paragraphs. Topics I need to practice are presenting information logically, examining primary themes, purpose of text, obtaining and utilizing relevant information, detecting bias, detecting explicit meaning, apostrophes, summarizing information, subject-verb agreement, spelling, colons and semicolons, and sentence structure. Completing weekly BKSB modules, I have tried to actively make an effort to improve examining primary themes of and purpose of text, as well as more effectively summarizing information. I have done this through researching for other subject assignments, reading journal articles, and completing weekly readings, activities and lecture notes for each of my subjects. I am slowly seeing the benefits from this work, as I am finding it easier to identify key themes and the purpose of text, as well as summarizing notes through using more important information and information that's most relevant. In the future, I intend to continue improving summarizing information and identifying key themes and purposes of text, as this will be very beneficial in my future studies at uni and beyond. Conclusion. Through my early development and exposure to all forms of literacy, the support that I received during my journey and the difficulties that I faced reflect the simplicity of a children's storybook through the short and simple sentences, yet also the colourful nature of the pictures and worlds that are present in the children's storybooks. Therefore, my metaphor perfectly represents my literacy and language journey. While my literacy journey has been quite simple and smooth, I continually seek to improve and develop my skills further.